It was a cold, gray afternoon in the city. People rushed down the sidewalks, coats pulled tight against the wind, earbuds in, eyes glued to their phones. No one stopped, no one looked around, everyone was in their own world. In the middle of the crowd, an old woman stood trembling. Her white hair was messy, her hands clutched a worn leather handbag, and her eyes darted around with confusion. She looked completely lost. She tried stopping strangers. "Excuse me, can you help me?" But most brushed past her as though she were invisible. Some frowned, some shook their heads, but no one offered more than a glance. To them, she was just another elderly person out of place. Too slow for the city. Too fragile. Too much of a burden. And so, she stood there alone. That's when he saw her. Across the street, 17-year-old Marcus was on his way home from school. His backpack was heavy, his sneakers scuffed, and his mind weighed down with bigger problems than homework. His mom worked 2 jobs just to keep the lights on, and every month was a struggle to cover rent. Marcus didn't have time for distractions. But when his eyes fell on the old woman, something inside him wouldn't let him walk past. He saw her confusion, the way her lips trembled as she tried to ask for help. He saw how the world ignored her, and something about it felt wrong. He crossed the street. "Ma'am, are you okay?" Marcus asked gently. The old woman blinked, her cloudy blue eyes widening with relief. "Oh, dear boy. I think I'm lost." She explained in a shaky voice that she had taken a walk from her hotel but couldn't remember how to get back. Her phone had died, and she had no idea where she was. Marcus could have shrugged, pointed her to the nearest police officer, and kept walking. That's what anyone else would have done. But instead, he smiled softly and said, "Don't worry. I'll help you get back. Let's figure this out together." And in that moment, something extraordinary began. At first, it wasn't easy. Marcus asked around, trying to see if anyone recognized the name of the hotel the woman mentioned. People shook their heads, brushed him off, or mumbled that they were in a hurry. Marcus could feel the frustration rising. Why was it so hard to get someone to simply care? But every time he looked at the old woman, whose frail hand clutched his like it was the only safe anchor in the world, he refused to give up. "Come on, let's sit here for a moment," Marcus said, guiding her to a bench. He offered her his water bottle, and she smiled weakly. "You're very kind," she whispered. "Marcus," he introduced himself. Her name, she said, was Eleanor. As they sat, Marcus thought quickly. He borrowed a stranger's phone charger at a cafe and helped her power up her device. Once her phone flickered back on, he looked up the hotel and promised to walk her all the way there. And so, the two of them, an old woman and a teenage boy, walked side by side through the city streets. Strangers stared, some with curiosity, some with judgment. But neither of them cared. On the walk, Eleanor opened up. She told Marcus about her late husband, about the loneliness that often followed her despite the wealth and luxury that surrounded her life. She admitted she had no children, no close family, only assistants and lawyers who cared about her money but not about her. "I suppose," she said quietly, "that's why it hurts when people don't even look at me. I feel like I don't exist anymore." Marcus swallowed hard. He didn't have money, but he had something she longed for: love, family, connection. He thought of his mother working late shifts, of the laughter he shared with his little sister even when there wasn't much food on the table. They had so little, and yet, they had everything Eleanor was missing. He squeezed her hand gently. "You're not invisible to me." Her eyes shimmered with tears. When they finally reached the Grand Hotel, Eleanor's private driver rushed forward, scolding her in panic. But Eleanor ignored him. She looked only at Marcus. "Would you join me for tea tomorrow?" she asked softly. "I would very much like to see you again." Marcus hesitated. He had homework, his part-time job, his family to help at home. But something in her eyes told him this was important. He nodded. "Sure. I'd like that." What followed was the beginning of a bond neither of them expected. Eleanor invited Marcus and, eventually, his mother and sister into her world. At first, Marcus was nervous. How could a kid from the projects fit into the life of a woman with chandeliers and servants? But Eleanor didn't care about status. She cared about the kindness she had found in him when the world turned away. Over time, she began to see Marcus as the grandson she never had. She attended his basketball games, cheered the loudest in the stands, and even helped him apply to colleges. For the first time in years, Eleanor wasn't lonely, she was alive. But life wasn't without its challenges. Eleanor's greedy business partners frowned at her growing closeness with Marcus's family. Rumors spread. People whispered that Marcus was using her for money. Even some of Marcus's friends teased him, saying he was babysitting some random old lady. It hurt. But Eleanor told Marcus something he never forgot. When you do the right thing, people will always question you. Don't listen to the noise. Listen to your heart. And then came the day that changed everything. Eleanor passed away quietly in her sleep, at peace and surrounded by photos of Marcus and his family. She left behind a letter addressed to him. Marcus, you reminded me that love and kindness matter more than all the riches in the world. You gave me family when I had none. Now, I want to give you the chance to live your dreams. Use this gift wisely, and never stop being the bee.